Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com. Anarchy Acres in Racine, Wisconsin is a special place. Situated in a quiet suburban neighborhood, Charlie Tennessen has created a small homestead that seeks self-sufficiency using draft animal power. He researches and grows heritage varieties of wheat and corn and mills the grain to use himself and sell to others. He considers the chickens, sheep, goats, and donkeys that live on his farm as contributing partners on the homestead. He seeks to perform as much of the work on his farm as he can without fossil fuels, using tools and techniques from 100 years ago.
You want to live a beautiful, meaningful life, and I think this challenge combined with the challenge of growing your own food, I think it's as big as anything out there, because it's got everything. It's got challenge, it's got heartache, it's got problems, it's got solutions, and it's always beautiful.
You feel fulfilled.
Yeah. So I think people all deserve beauty and to live around beauty. These animals are beautiful. The farm is beautiful. It makes me really, really happy. This little guy was born on Friday. Let's go say hi to Joe. And these are borrowed sheep. I had a loner sheep an old sheep of mine who was alone, and he just passed away last night actually, which is sad. But when his last buddy died a few months ago, I borrowed these two sheep from my cousin. She raises these sheep. One of them was pregnant, just had that little guy on Friday. And so now I'll keep these guys around maybe for the summer and send them back. And he had a rough start because Mom didn't like him, so I had to tie her so she would stop kicking him away. The other ewe doesn't like him.
That's right. But she's sucking now.
Yeah, they're doing just great. Yeah, he's put on 3 pounds since Friday. So he's fine. He's out of the woods. And it's funny, these donkeys are really calm around people. They're really calm around the dogs next door. That little kid lamb was terrified of him. She had him outside the door in the pasture, and then that little kid in a couple hours kind of walked around. The donkeys saw it, and there you go. The whole herd kind of runs away. This is the first time with them coming into the barn and seeing her. Looks like he's gonna roll. That's a good sign. And this is Cassie. Cassie's always the fuzziest one, and I want to make sure we get her cleaned up at least a little bit. Buster, you can quiet down, And there goes Rosie. We're in the mud season, so they haven't had a dry place to roll over, which is so it's not surprising that everyone wants to take their turn.
On one of the days we visited Charlie, it was a little too wet to plow, but he agreed to take his hitch of 3 donkeys, Rosie, Cassie, and Sebastian, out to the field with his homemade plow to show us how they work together. 182.
Again, when I'm telling my story, I try to think, how can I, and it's hard as a farmer because you just feel discouraged, like, well, why did it rain so much or whatever. But how can I tell the story in such a way that, yeah, something happened that was really hard to overcome, but we overcame it and persevered, and we had the happy ending or the exciting ending. And I think small farmers have got to do that. I mean, I have overcome a lot of challenges and persevered. So I think that story should be told that way rather than, we had this flood and we couldn't get the potatoes rotted, and now there's a poor harvest.
Right.
Whereas it's all negative.
Right. What you're doing is you're creating a narrative that people can tell around their table.
Yeah.
When they buy your food, when they make bread from your grain or whatever, it's a part of the entire. They can share in the cycle.
We have to. Otherwise, like I said, as I told you earlier, I have two choices. I can sell. Let's take wheat. I can sell wheat, or I can sell a story. If I sell wheat, the price is $5 a bushel, and take it or leave it. But if I sell the story behind it and I sell a product, I have to add some value, turn it into flour, turn it into bread or something. But if I then tell that story, then I can get those city prices and collect some of those other rents on that product. That otherwise, as a farmer, I just get the smallest piece. Roy's Calais, I believe, are these. They're 8-row, and it grows half, about 2/3 yellow and 1/3 red. And you got to select a little bit more of the red if you want to maintain that. This is Floriana. Actually, it was developed in Italy. So we were talking about crops that went back and forth across the Atlantic. So obviously a New World crop, and was further developed in Italy, let's say in the 17th century or something like that. It went over very quickly. I mean, they started growing it right away. And now here it is back in the New World. And I like that one too.
It's got a real round kernel, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like pointy.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, it just makes very good grits.
Uh-huh.
It's just really fantastic flavor. And this one, darn it, I know you're going to ask me, but I can't remember what the variety is.
It looks like a dent.
It's a dent. It's a dent. So it's more from the 19th century. Dents really start, although there are old dents. I used to believe that dent was a new thing, but they're actually quite old. I talked to a corn person. But that was kind of more what was grown in Wisconsin, let's say in the 19th century, would have been a dent corn. So those got popular, and they're productive and they're good. So, but this is the actual ones that I was going through the field that I didn't put into the sheller. Most of my corn I shelled and I ate. There's shelled corn.
Sure.
But this stuff, I just thought this is a really well filled out ear. It was strong all the way to the end, no rot. So this is one that's all plant. And same for the other ones in here. They all looked like they were good examples of things that I was going for.
Do you plant these near each other?
I plant them near each other, and I have not seen many problems. I mean, if I see something that gets crossed a lot, I'm not going to save it as seed.
Okay.
But it's all going to be edible.
Right.
I try to stagger once you have a basic understanding of how long it's going to be to flowering, and you can, let's say, stagger your plantings by 2 weeks. That's going to take care of most of your problems.
That handles the quarantine. You're quarantining by time.
Yep. The corn is very hard, and not everything inside is digestible. Basically, the center is so darn hard that it's going to pass through your system, and you're going to miss out on a lot of the minerals, and especially niacin. So to do that, you got to basically cook the dickens out of it in an alkali solution, which is a process discovered by Native Americans at least 5,000 years ago called nixtamalization. And you can get an alkali solution in North America from two different sources traditionally. One is going to be wood ash, and the other is lime cal. Now in Central America, they were producing a lot of lime cal to make plaster for all their monumental architecture. So they had lime cal. And when I nixtamalize, I use lime cal, which I get at the lumber store, because you can use lime cal to make, it's also called hydrated lime in North America. You use it to make concrete.
Okay.
But you could also use it to mix with water to make an alkali solution. And you're going to cook it for an hour, let it sit overnight, and then you're going to mill it. So that's how you release those nutrients inside corn. Okay. And the same thing with wood ash.
Okay. So you leave it overnight and then you spread it out and dry it.
I will when I use it, I'll just keep it wet and I'll put it through a wet grinder. Okay. We talked about beans. These are the Jacob's cattle beans. And you can see I threshed them. I cracked a bunch of them in half because my thresher was a little bit harsh. But that's that homemade thresher that I did. And so I've got about 20 pounds of these left from 2 years ago.
Jacob's cattle?
Jacob's cattle beans.
Okay.
Yeah, real easy growers, and they taste great.
Yeah, so wheat I got to a long ago. I mean, I started baking when I was in high school with my sister, and like anything, you just kind of get into it more and more. You get a couple books, and sooner or later, I found a book saying that if you really want to be a good baker, you needed to grind your own wheat, your own flour, and you needed to grow your own wheat in your backyard. So I started doing that, and the book recommended a particular variety called Turkey Red, which is was a classic variety of his area. This author was from Kansas, and Turkey Red is the red wheat that is the grandfather of most of the wheat grown in Kansas today. And I grew Turkey Red for a couple years in my backyard and milled it. And I had been milling, by the way, since the 1990s. I had a mill that was in my basement from a long time ago, hand milling. Anyhow, so I got curious about Turkey Red, and somehow I got curious about the wheat of Wisconsin. What was the wheat grown in Wisconsin? And that's when I started to come across historical sources. So, and some of this stuff, it's like somebody went back in history and wrote this book for me. Here's a University of Wisconsin bulletin: the milling and baking qualities of Wisconsin-grown wheat, 1919. And then you could take this information and go to the USDA's GRIN database, where they maintain 50,000 varieties of wheat, and you could see if any of these wheat varieties were still available. And it turns out that about 10 or 12 of them are still available. They'll send you a package in the mail with 5 grams of wheat, if they have that variety, if you're willing to share your results publicly. So I've gotten, I think, about 10 or 15 different varieties that were grown in Wisconsin, in the 19th and early 20th century. And I'm in the process, and we can go look at it later on in my garden, of taking those 5-gram samples and growing them out enough until I can get an idea for what their flavor is like and how well they work in this particular region of Wisconsin. And I've been reviving some of the classic spring 19th century wheat. Now, one of them is right there, Red Fife. And because people have been interested in Red Fife for a while, there's already good seed samples of that. And I was able to get a couple bushels of that 3 years ago, and now I have enough seed that I can grow as much as I want. But there's 2 other varieties, maybe they're called types, Java and Blue Stem. And those I don't think anyone has available as flour today. So it's kind of fun to be a re-pioneer in that area. I'm in the 2nd year growing those out. And at the end of this year, I'll probably have about 7 pounds of seed for each one of those varieties. And then I'll put it out into a big field. And then in a year or 2, we can have some bread baked with a lost 19th century wheat. 5 grams is about 100 seeds. And they maintain their seed. It's not seed from 1919, but about every 15 to 20 years, they replant it.
Okay. And then harvest it.
And then harvest it and save the seed. But that means that those 100 seeds are not perfect seeds, because if it's been 19 years since they planted it, the germination is going to be below 50%. So it's a real challenge. And it does get attacked by, we were talking about raccoons and corn. Birds are terrible with small plots of wheat. I mean, they're just terrible. So when it gets close to harvest, I got to cover that up with bird netting, and that they didn't teach me that in high school. I had to learn that the hard way, like farmers do.
Hi, I'm Charlie. You're on Anarchy Acres. Welcome to the farm. It's morning time and I'm hungry, and I want to show you what I have for breakfast in these dreary spring mornings. It's late April. It's not looking nice out here. We've had an inch of rain yesterday, inch of rain before, a late spring. Actually, we're on May 1st today, and I'm looking for something green, but I haven't planted much this year, and certainly nothing has grown this year because it's been cold and wet. However, we're going to go down to my garden in a moment. It's down there, And I'm going to find something that I didn't plant that's green and it tastes great. So come on along and I'll show you what I had in mind. So here's the big secret. It's garlic. Garlic is just a fantastic, grows better than the dandelions around here. Well, about the same. We got some dandelions. You can't quite see them there. But this is garlic and this is garlic. And I got two things that are great spring green possibilities. First of all, it's the ones that I did not intend either one of them. But one of them I usually do. This one I usually do. This is what you get when you plant the little florets. If you let garlic go, looks like a flower, and if you let it dry out, it's got little BBs in it. And if you plant those, you'll get a little spring onion. And you can see, you know, I'd probably let it go another couple weeks, but it's a really nice spring onion. Tastes fantastic. And this one obviously just fell on the ground and seeded itself, but I could have taken those little beads and put them in a row and had a little better yield. But so that's one kind of garlic. Here's some garlic bulbs. I just forgot to harvest them last year. It was really bad last year. It was really weedy, and I guess I just let them go. So now, May 1st, these are going to be nice spring onions. We'll just pop them out of the ground, take them up, and put them in a scrambled egg. And again, I just did not, and I've had this every year. In fact, when I first started seeing these things, these guys, I thought I had some weird native garlic species just growing on the ground, growing in my farm. So we got nice scallions. I'll try to leave as much mud as possible in the garden. And again, I'll just chop these up like garlic or like spring onions. All right. So, and you can see it's a really muddy day. In a few more days, I'll probably just harvest all of these, but they're still growing, and I want them bigger, so I'll probably let them go a few more days. Obviously, as soon as it's dry in here, we're going to plow this all up and turn this over into other crops for the season. But there's nothing else you can grow in this ground right now except garlic, and that's already here, and I'm going to eat it. Okay, so we're ready to make our scrambler. Here's all the scallions that we just cleaned, got them out of the garden. That's enough for 2 days, so maybe we'll just take 3. This is real quick. The idea is we got to get some greens, some chlorophyll, some vitamins into our system, fight off that scurvy that builds up from wintertime. If you're a farmer and you're a homesteader, vitamins are hard to come by during the winter months. So that's why I'm really excited when that green finally shows up in the garden. So obviously scrambled eggs are high. So we got this good and hot. We'll mess up the greens a little bit. So we're just caramelizing a little bit, but we don't want to kill off a lot of vitamins either. So I think that's good enough. In we go. Keep it moving, again, high heat. We could have even preheated this pan longer. All right. Thanks a lot for watching today. I hope you learned something. I don't have a lot to share, but I'll share what I have. And if you would visit anarchyacres.com. You make me really happy. You could buy wheat, you could buy books, but if you just get some inspiration, then I know I've done something. So please do your own thing. Make your own part of the world a little bit prettier and a little bit nicer. Make yourself and your family a little bit healthier, and have some fun today. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us today at Rural Heritage and RFD TV, where we borrow from yesterday to do the work of today. This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.